Fill your thirst beside the river. Wash the journey from your hands. Feel the comfort flow inside you. Come this far, you understand.
Hi, welcome to Healing Outside the Box. I am your host, Rosemary LaChance, an energy healer and a spiritual advisor and teacher.
And I'm Carla Augustin, a spiritual teacher and your co-host.
And tonight we are continuing our Life Explained series, which will give you food for thought information about spirituality based on the teachings of Hans Wilhelm from his Life Explained series. We will play one or two different DVDs and then have dialogue about it. We encourage you to call or email us or write to NHTV with your questions, and we will answer them on the show or privately if you prefer. This is not a religious show, and no matter what religious belief you follow, the information we give you will only enhance your beliefs. We do not try to convince you of anything. This series is recorded and will be shown in your area on your local public service cable network. Please contact them for dates and times.
If you have a group that you think would be interested in what we have to offer, we are available to come to your group and teach from this series. We will give you our contact information at the end of the show. Please visit Rosemary or Hans's website, where you'll find a wealth of information about our show and this series. Now, our shows are available for you to watch on YouTube for free. Just go on YouTube and type in Healing Outside the Box to make your choices. We are constantly adding new shows, so keep checking back. Now, we're also on Facebook under Healing Outside the Box. Please like our page for the latest information about our show. We hope you enjoy the show.
Okay, this is show number 219. And it's called, the first one that we're going to play and talk about is called the Christ Spark. And if we have time, we're going to do the second one, which is called Astral Projection. So when the control room gets the DVD up on the monitor, we'll play it for you and we will listen.
Hi, I'm Hans Wilhelm, and in this video I will speak about the Christ Spark that I've already mentioned in some of my videos. The story and the purpose of the Christ Spark is quite amazing, and I fully understand that at first you might find it a bit difficult to believe. But I have no need to convince anybody. This video will be a little bit longer, but stay with me, you won't regret it.
As usual, we have to go way back to creation. Here we have the highest omnipresent energy, the primordial all-stream from which arises the Father-Mother God, the Creator God, who then fashioned the absolute eternal reality consisting of 7 gigantic heavens with all their spiritual life forms, from the mineral, plant, animal, nature spirits and spiritual beings. These ethereal heavens, together with all of creation, are ever expanding and ever evolving. But in the beginning, when things were not quite settled yet, there was a rebellion by a number of spiritual beings or angels. Their leader was Satana, whom many know as Lucifer, who wanted to be like God. Her goal was to undo all of God's creation and then create her own heavens, where she would be the ruler, be God. Therefore, all destructive energies that we now see, like war, terrorism, etc., are the satanic principle. Through the law of attraction and rejection, Satana and her sizable number of followers could no longer remain in the pure love stream of the absolute heavens, and they projected themselves into the outer regions, which became the 7 force spheres that surround the pure heavens. We call this event the Fall of Angels. These 7 regions are a reflection of the pure heavens and are reflecting the 7 basic powers of God. From the top they are mercy, love, patience, earnestness, wisdom, divine will, and order. The lower 4 are called the 4 natures of God, and they are furthest away from the life-giving central sun. Encouraged by Satana, the egocentricity and selfishness of these rebellious souls increased, and many burdened themselves more and more. They fell further and further away from the pure heavens. Many fell right here into the lower fall regions, where they would receive even less and less life force from the central sun. So they began to steal more vigorously life energies from each other to keep alive, thus increasing their karma. The furthest region includes the physical or material universe with planet Earth. Matter is nothing but down-transformed ethereal light. Here on Earth, these souls had fallen so far that their density eventually resulted into a physical body. But none of these fallen souls were ever lost. All the time, the Father-Mother God sent messengers, prophets, and wise souls into the every fall region to ask all the souls to return home. Many of these messengers and prophets also came to planet Earth to persuade the people to turn away from egocentricity and back to love, back to God. But most of the efforts were in vain. The fallen souls became more and more enmeshed in selfishness, and with it came an increase of destruction, wars, and suffering, which is exactly what Satana or Lucifer wanted, the destruction of creation. Over eons and eons of time, the fallen souls burdened themselves more and more with karma. Their own energy and their access to divine energy was affecting their 7 energy centers. These energy centers, which the East calls chakras, are reflecting God's 7 powers. From the top down, they are mercy, love, patience, earnestness, wisdom, will, and order, just like the pure heavens and just like the 4 spheres. Because of their enormous karmic burdens, these 7 rapidly rotating energy centers of these fallen souls had slowed down so much that they would eventually stop and reverse their rotation. They were about to reach the very critical tipping point of devolution, which would be the undoing of creation. A slow but unstoppable path back from the spiritual being to the nature spirit, to the animals, the plants, the minerals, and eventually back into the eternally flowing primordial spirit from where once everything came. The entire equilibrium of creation would fall out of balance, and the dissolution of all spiritual forms and universes would have been the unavoidable result. And then Satana and Lucifer would have succeeded and could create their own new demonic heavens. However, at this cosmic tipping point, something amazing took place to stop the impending collapse of creation. The divine love energy, that some call the Son of God or Christ, incarnated into the person we know as Jesus here on earth to teach the absolute path of love by example and lessons. This event was of such an incredible magnitude that it shook up the entire demonic worlds in all the fall regions. They saw that their plan of destruction was now seriously endangered. Christ came, taught, and lived the path of absolute love. He sharply criticized the established religious hierarchies, which were already then under control of the demonic forces. Subsequently, these demonic forces used all their influence and power, and with the assistance of the priesthood, persuaded the masses to have Christ crucified. So the brutal death of Christ on the cross was not a karmic event. It was a desperate attempt by the satanic or Luciferian powers to stop his mission. Christ now realized that his calling to change the hearts and minds of all souls through his teachings and example was going to fail. As a last option, he then decided to give of himself to the fallen children of God that had left the absolute heavens. Now, what does it mean, he gave of himself? When Christ spoke the words, "It is finished," on the cross, he withdrew from the highest eternally flowing primordial potential, the spirit or love, and implanted it as sparks into all the souls of the 4 lower purification spheres, which had severely burdened themselves by disregarding the law of love. It was like a gigantic firework that trembled through all the 4 worlds. This spark became the support and stability for the fallen souls, so that their spirit substance could no longer dissolve back into the eternally flowing spirit. It was stopped. The energy centers, or chakras, could no longer reverse themselves. Creation was saved forever. And each heavily burdened soul was saved by this redemption deed. Since then, everything is now on their way back home to the absolute reality, to God. Thus, Christ became the Redeemer for all deeply fallen souls and people until they have reactivated again the 4 divine rays of consciousness, being order, divine will, wisdom, and earnestness. Once the soul has redeveloped the 4th plane of purification, redemption is accomplished in that soul. Then the energy of the spark of redemption, which has supported, upheld, and guided the soul, returns back to the primordial all-power. The soul has then consciously accepted the filiation to God and will enter the pulling force of God for the final preparations to return back to the absolute reality, to the heart of God. This powerful Christ spark is an additional energy spark that sits in the vicinity of our heart and in the area of the 4th energy center. It assists every fallen soul to walk the path of love and to quickly transform all negativity into love. And how do we do this? Christ taught us to always compare our thoughts, words, and actions and feelings to the 10 Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount. And by doing so, we will immediately know what is not in alignment and what it is that we have to change within ourselves. The next step is to feel deep repentance or remorse for our mistakes and no longer do them. And if we have hurt anybody, we ask them for forgiveness and offer amends. The same way as we have to fully forgive everybody who we think has harmed us in any way. We cannot expect forgiveness if we are unwilling to forgive others. The Christ or the redemption spark will then transform the negative karmic energy into positive energy and stream it into our body, thus healing our body from the effects of negative karma, like an illness and so on. Christ always heals the soul first, which then streams light and power into the physical body. That is how Christ became the inner physician and healer. The spark is the light that shines brightly or dimly in us depending on how we polish and use it. It is a purifying flame within all of us. For a deeper understanding, I like to clarify that the Christ spark is not the same as the God spark, which is the incorruptible divine essence in all sentient beings and which connects us directly with God. The Christ spark is Christ's redemption gift to ensure that every lost soul will return home.
I only offer this information. Whether you use it or not is up to you. The path to God always has to be based on our own free will. If you have any questions or like to learn more, there are many books on this topic and I will just list a few. The Profound Book Collection by Senta Lange aus den Sphären des Lichts, Volume 16. Then there is the book Göttliche Offenbarung by Hans Diensknecht and the book Causes and Development of All Illnesses by Gabriele. But I believe the most detailed description of the origin and power of the Christ spark can be found in the book This is My Word, the Alpha and Omega, chapter 20. You can find links to the last 2 books on my page of recommended books on the website lifeexplained.com. As always, it has been an honor and pleasure to be with you.
Hi. Welcome back.
Yes.
Now, Carla,
All right.
beautiful Carla, is going to start some questions.
Thanks, Rosemary.
I hope I can answer them to
I'm sure
everybody's
I'm sure you can.
understanding.
I did really like this one. I liked it a lot.
Gave a good explanation.
I thought so.
How we got here, how we ended up
everything.
here, what happened. Everybody says that.
Yeah, it was
How
new
did we get
thought
here? Why
for
are we
me.
here? Yep.
Yeah, it was definitely new thought for me. And I thought he gave a really good review the very first 2 minutes of the video of so many things that we've been talking about. Now he gets into the 7 basic powers of God, which I've never heard this. This is kind of a new thought for me. I mean, I know God is powerful, but never thought of it in terms of breaking it down. So he has the 7 basic powers of God. And so mercy, love, patience, wisdom, and divine will were very self-explanatory to me. But earnestness, I mean, I know what that means. Earnestness and order, I just wasn't sure what those 2 meant in terms of a basic power of God.
Okay.
So like earnestness, what's
right.
he meaning? What do they mean by that?
You know that's what our chakras are named, right?
So these 7.
Yeah, you know
right.
they are,
okay.
right? You know
I
where
didn't
they're
know they
located.
were. No.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
And order is in the base.
So that's the base.
That's I would say like below the navel down
Right.
there, and will is where around the navel is.
Yeah.
And wisdom is in the stomach area.
Okay.
And earnestness or justice is here in the heart, and patience is right here,
Right.
and love is here, and mercy is on the top of our head.
Yeah. And so those are
Those are our chakras.
the powers of God. So earnestness being in the heart chakra, basically. I mean, what does that mean as a power of God? Like,
Well, the word explains it. Earnestness or
Right.
justice, being fair-minded, and being that everything should be done in a justice way. In other words,
Okay.
justice should be done. We should practice justice all the time. In other words, being fair about everything, seeing,
Okay.
knowing, just like the justice that's supposed to be in the courts and the law, which isn't anymore,
Right,
They say the
right.
law, there's a saying that says law isn't always justice. It's not. Justice shall be done no matter what. That was one of his laws. Justice shall happen to
Oh,
everyone.
all right. Okay. Because I was thinking of it in terms of earnestness, in terms of a conviction, like a sincere conviction, like
that
so
too.
I didn't think of it in terms of justice.
Yeah,
but,
they call it justice or earnestness.
okay.
So
all right.
earnestness again is the truth. What does earnest mean? Being
Right.
sincere, right?
Right. Being sincere.
So that's
So
what that
truth.
means. Yeah,
Okay.
the truth.
The truth. Okay, that makes sense. In order.
Order means that is the one when we studied this. It was so hard for people to pass that level. This is all a course that you can take if you wanted to follow universal life. Order. It would mean getting your thoughts in order, getting your words in order, and that is so hard. That's why practice of meditation helps. But some people do it for years, even myself, and you get all these vagabond thoughts that run through your head all the time, and your mind is not quiet. You're thinking
Okay.
about what happened yesterday, what happened before, what you're going to do there, who said what, da-da-da.
So it's about being
Constant
mindful?
flow, yeah. And then
order is
what-
it about being mindful?
being mindful, living in the moment.
Living in the moment.
He mentioned that book, I think,
Okay.
on one of the shows, Live the Moment. And what's his name? That author. Oh, and he wrote the same thing. Oh, I can't think of his name. I can't remember his name. He wrote 2 books about living in the moment, living in the now. Living in the now, I think his was called. I forgot his name.
Oh, I know what you mean. Well, it'll come to us. Okay.
Oh, terrible. That's also an excellent book. It tells you how to focus and concentrate. He's on the same lines as the book that Gabi had put out about Live the Moment. It's the
Okay.
same exact thing. If we can stay centered in living in the moment, like you're eating, but you're talking. You're eating or you're watching TV. You're not focused on what you're doing. You got to focus on what you're doing all the time with everything you do. You knock things over and you bang into walls. And I said to myself, why do I do that? And then I realized I wasn't purposely going to put this glass down or purposely putting this spoon here or purposely doing this. I was just thinking all the time. And so I didn't pay attention. So I went to reach for something. I wasn't even paying attention. So I knock it over. This is what happens. And the biggest thing that happens when you don't have your mind quiet, your angels can't talk to you. They can't get through to you, I should say. They
Right,
talk
'cause
all the
you're really
time,
not listening.
but you're not listening. It's like I said, I think I've said this 100 times on the show. the old telephones, when somebody was talking, you get a busy signal. Beep, 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 beep. That's what it's like for them. Can't get through. And then all of a sudden there's a spot, there's a time and a moment when all of a sudden you seem to be quiet, your mind, and then bang, the thoughts will come in. And you go, ooh, where'd that come from,
Yeah.
you know? Matter of fact, that's how Gabi does, you know, all the things she tells us that God and Christ speak through her, because she's able to quiet her mind like no one ever did on this planet. So quiet that he can talk right through her. It's her voice, but it's him. It's either one of them talking, you know. And that's how other prophets do it too. Even mediums, they're able to do that a little bit better than us. Mediums who just, you know, channel earthbound souls, you know.
Right.
But still, they have that, you know.
Right.
That's why meditation is so important. All the answers you need are inside of you. And they are from the angels, always there to help you and tell you, but we are not listening.
Okay.
You know?
All right, well, that makes sense then,
Yeah.
to be mindful.
So that's
and
what
to
order
really,
is. Yeah.
Yeah, to be really
Right.
together, to be really one.
So when you
almost.
meditate and you go down your chakras, you focus, starting with order. Focus on there. And until you can get your mind like that, you got to stay there.
You're gonna
You
stay
got to
there,
keep
yeah.
focusing down there.
Right, it's hard to work up.
Yeah.
It's hard to work up. It's hard to...
Is willfulness?
Right.
How willful are we? We're
Right.
very willful.
Right. But divine will,
God's will.
It's God's will.
Getting God's
Yeah,
will.
doing that. Okay. All right. So that makes sense. So the last four, order, divine will, or the first four, we should say order, divine will, wisdom, earnestness, correspond to the four purification spheres. So does it mean that's what we learn on each sphere? It is. So when you're on Earth and you do come from the first sphere, it is to learn order.
Right.
And then when you advance to the second sphere, then it is to understand divine will.
That's why this course that they offer, you can take that, and if you make it up to will or wisdom or earnestness while you're still on Earth, when you pass over it, you can go right to the planets
nice.
of justice, the spheres of
Okay.
justice. There's many out there, you know, worlds, and you can go right there, and you can bypass all the rest because you've already got your thoughts in
That's
order.
interesting.
You're not willful anymore. You're very wise. Your wisdom has opened up. You know, you're everything that's how that works. And then when you get to that order, you can start to hear Christ yourself talk to you directly. So, but you have to be purified enough, which means the quiet mind and doing all these wonderful
the
things.
purification spheres
and the
that he
golden
talks about.
rules.
Okay.
People obey the 10 Commandments, the Sermon on the Mount, and the 2 golden rules, which are actually the 11th and 12th commandments. Do unto others and don't do unto others what you
Right.
wouldn't want to do to you. That's what we have to do. Easy, right? Simple. No, it's not.
It's not simple.
Because people
though.
bother us because we were like them. So you know, they aggravate us, and so it's hard. So
are we supposed to be, I mean, is our lesson to practice each of God's power or just focus on one thing? I mean, if we
Well,
were to,
if we
do them all.
yeah,
you
if
know,
we get up to earnestness, and there are people here who have been able to do that, and there'll be more that will be able to do that, then we're going to be fine. But yeah, our purpose is to go as far as you can by learning, and you'll know if you've conquered order or will or wisdom. You'll know that, but you know, it's hard.
Right. I mean, that if we're supposed to conquer that first one, order, I mean, that's pretty challenging.
That's
to
really challenging. It's
be
the hardest.
present. Yeah.
It's the hardest present in the moment. I know, because I still have that problem. I don't think I made it out of order yet, even after all these years. I know. You know? And some of the
know,
other people,
even-
we do
it's
order
tough.
over and over again, you know?
Yeah. So do you have to do order first before you
Yeah.
you have to finish? Okay. All right. So 2,000 years ago, creation was collapsing. It was an interesting way to put it. And evil was winning. Okay? And so God sends his divine light, who incarnated as Jesus, right?
No.
His divine light. I
No.
thought that's how he phrased it.
Yeah, well, Jesus is the divine light. Christ
Right.
is
Okay.
not God. I want to make sure it's not God.
Okay.
He's God's only begotten Son. He's God's Son.
Okay.
That's so confusing because some
Okay, so it's
religions,
not-
yeah. It's not God himself.
It's not a piece of God.
No. Well,
No.
we're all a piece of God.
Right, right.
See, the words are funny, you know.
I know.
Yeah, we're all a piece
Yeah,
of God.
yeah.
And in other words, when he says his divine light, which is Christ, in other words, he created him. That's who he is. That's who came here. He's a different entity from God.
Okay.
He's God's only begotten son, which
All
means
right.
God and his dual got together, which was Satana, and created a baby.
Okay.
That's the only I can tell you in terms of on the earth, had a baby. Because we do that. We have babies there, but it's not the way it's done on earth. It's totally different.
Okay.
So, and that's another whole nother
That's
story,
a
another
story.
show.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So evil was winning. God sends Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. And
He volunteered. Christ
and
volunteered.
then
yeah.
all right. So and this totally shakes up the demonic world. All right, because they thought that they were winning. That people were just must have been a terrible time. People must have been really at each other.
Really bad.
Yeah. So it had to be really brutal. And so Jesus comes, and I just found it almost amusing the way that he says it, because it shakes up the demonic world. And I think, is the demonic world so naive to think that they're going to beat God? You know, that they're
yeah.
going to outsmart God.
Yeah, if they can-
That they don't think God's going to retaliate, or that God can
He won't
outdo
retaliate.
them.
He doesn't retaliate.
All right.
And he didn't do that. It's not that way. In other words, he knew that Satana was winning. She was getting the creation, the rotation in us.
Right.
In the world, everything is clockwise. Okay? In the whole universe, it's all clockwise. She was trying to turn it the other way. With these powers, which, yeah, there are powers, magic powers. We call them magic, but they're not. They're the laws of the universe. And she was making us rotate the other way, so that eventually creation would have dissolved and she would have taken over and created and started her own creation, because she was God's dual and she knew how to do it.
Right.
All right? So,
But she didn't think in terms of God outsmarting her, God, you know.
I don't think so. I think she
know.
was so egotistical that she
That's
just thought,
just must
I'm
be
going to get this
incredibly.
done, you know.
All right.
Christ volunteered to come, too, to do this. And he was supposed to live for hundreds of years, because in those days they lived a long, long time. And he was supposed to live for hundreds of years and teach us all that we had to know, like this path that we're talking about now, universal life.
Yeah.
But I think I mentioned this before. It didn't work, because the people were so evil that they got him crucified. So then...
Yeah, that was incredible. So they, so they decide they, you know, can't. He was out there for 3 years preaching his message of love, and then they decide we just can't have this anymore. So they're going to crucify him. And I thought it was interesting. He said, and so Jesus thought he was going to fail, and he realized this. So he gave of himself. He gave his spirit of love. And this is the Christ spark. So a little piece of him, his light, right?
Light that came from heaven,
and
yeah, in other
his
words.
light that came from
his light,
heaven,
yeah.
right?
You saw the video with all the sparks.
Right. He gave to all the souls that were in the 4 lower spheres.
He gave to us the spirits and the people in all those spheres, yeah.
And all those spheres, right.
justice
Just the
down.
people on the earth, but also
in all the other planets, you know.
all of them. Okay. So, again, evil didn't see this coming. They didn't see that he would think of something like this. So you've said to me before in other shows, the light always wins.
Yeah.
And
Love.
this, you know, this is an example of this, isn't it? I mean, this is a huge example in our history of where love and light
Yep, always.
always win.
Will
God
always win.
will always win.
Just have to have faith, you know.
God will always win.
When we spoke
Something.
about this, you and I, when Mel Gibson made his movie, The Passion of the
Yes,
Christ,
we were talking about this before.
and when he gave that spark from the cross, when the earthquake and everything happened, and they showed a picture of the devil, so to speak, and if you look really close, she was like half male, half female. And I noticed that. I said, she looks half male, half female. And when that happened, that's what was actually happening when all the rumbles and the spark went out. And she knew that. And that's why she screamed in the movie. Mel didn't know what he was doing. I think he was spiritually led to do it that way. And if you all have seen that movie, or remember
I have,
that.
but I don't remember that part of
Yeah,
it.
then watch it again and watch that part where she screams, and that's when
Because
she
she
knew
realized she was defeated.
lost.
She lost. Yeah, she realized she
Right.
lost.
But now these times,
So it's not possible anymore for her to reverse any kind of
so
rotation.
now, and she's already seen her ways, and she's heading back home, through everything she's learning. But she had a second in command, so to speak. I'll try to talk in earthly terms. A second in command, and his name is Demon. And now he's taken over, and he's Lucifer now. And he knows that he can't recreate creation, but his objective now is to make everybody so bad and act so terrible and so evil, and makes the way the world is today, the confusion, everything is going on, and you can see it's getting worse and worse and worse for all the things that are happening since the elections and everything else. It's going so fast, badly, so fast, so downhill, so fast, and he wants to keep us in that state of mind. So when we pass over, we'll belong to him, so to speak. We'll be
because
full
of all
of
the
sins.
karma, we have to come back again. Same old, same
when
old,
we're
same
full
old.
of sin, and he'll keep on.
So you got to keep coming back.
Yeah. And there are people here who worship him. Devil worship. They have that. You know that.
Right.
That's
right,
true.
Right.
There are lots of people who worship him like a god, like our God.
And the way that he can manipulate.
Yeah. And this is how he
people,
can control.
How is it? How is he creating like all the, kind of dysfunction out there, and like how's he stirring that up?
Well,
where people are going at each other, and there's so much arguing and hate and.
Well, just like when you get good thoughts. When you walk down the street and you see somebody in need, and maybe you give them some money, or you buy somebody who's homeless dinner, or give them McDonald's, or people are doing nice things. The angels are telling you, and they're influencing you and helping you. And then on the opposite side, so is Demon and all his people, little demonettes around us. Like there's a book called Astral Horror. I think we showed it on one of the shows, and it's available if they go on the website with all the literature that's there, which I give at the end of the show. Excuse me. And they influence us that way too. All right, and they influence other people to influence us, and on and on and on. And these people are not. They're not. How can I say it? Their hearts are not like pure towards God. They don't believe in all that. They don't even believe in God, and they're not pure. And they think they are, but they're not. They think that nothing's going to happen to me. All this is baloney. Nothing. And so they're doing all these terrible things. And all you have to do is look in the world and read everything and what's going on, and you see how we really are divided in this world. Not just the United States, but the whole world.
Yeah, the whole world.
Every place, all the things that are going on, the greed, the ego, and the greed, and the killing, and the terrible things that people are doing. That's because of the influence of Lucifer. And
So
through
to be
him,
conscious of that, to try to be conscious of that.
You're right. You should be conscious of that. Whenever you do something, you're prone to think of doing something like that. Remember,
Not get caught
who's
up
influencing you.
Right, don't get caught up in the frenzy of it all.
No.
Yeah, which is hard with Facebook and
with
the
everything.
news and media and everything that's out there, and everybody voicing their opinion, and so.
But
it's hard.
People have to remember, and I keep telling myself this. What the news tells of this, and the people that are in these groups that are doing all these terrible things, that's just a percentage of the world. There's so much more people in the world who are doing the right thing, who are living their life like that. And they don't get up on Facebook or in the news and say, look, I'm living my life the way I'm supposed to.
It's a really good point.
Yeah.
People don't say, oh, look at I donated today, or look at
because you're supposed to do your deeds quietly
Right.
and walk away and let it, and you don't,
Right.
the reward you get for doing it on earth is less reward you get when you get back. You know what I'm saying? Is it, so,
Well,
but those people aren't talked about.
I'm going to remember that with the, if I'm watching the news or something, something and it just seems like so much turmoil and all of that, I'm going to remember that really this is not going to win.
No.
This won't
but
win.
every time they do it, they'll get a few more people to follow them.
Sure. But
and of course, where are they doing it most? On the so-called people that we pick to run the country, whose faces are in the news all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets them by their greed.
Mm-hmm.
They want.
Right.
And you see what's happening.
Power,
And people
money,
don't know who to
attention.
believe.
Yeah.
You know, if a person can schmooze, can up there and say, a good speaker can schmooze other people by saying and doing all these nice things, then they believe their lies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so.
Yeah.
And you can't tell anyone anymore. Everyone is just thinks they're right now, and that's all the influence there. So anyway, I don't want to keep going on.
All right. So Jesus says at that moment, it is finished. The moment that he sends it all out. So, not to get technical, but refresh my memory. I thought he said, "God forgive them, for they know not what they're doing."
He did.
He did. And then after that, he says, "It is finished."
He said, "God forgive them, Father forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Right.
He said, "Father, why hast thou abandoned me?"
Yes.
Now that saying was totally misinterpreted. What he meant was, at that particular time, Christ was always in tune with heavens. He was always, he saw the spirits, the angels, you know, the heavens are always open to him. But when he passed over, he had to die an earthly death. When he came here, he had to know what we went through when we lived here, the temptations of everything, how it felt, okay? And when, at that particular time, when he was just getting ready to die, it was blocked out from him. He couldn't see the heavens. He couldn't see anything. He had to do it as he had to die, as any human would die. So he would know what we felt like. And then afterwards, it opened again. And when he said, "It is finished," it had already opened again. And he had sent the spark out. And his finish was, the deed is done. He did it. He sent that. He accomplished what he came to do. Not the way he was supposed to be.
Or not the way he thought he was.
No, teaching for all that time.
Right.
But he gave everyone the Christ spark.
Okay.
And when that was said,
that's when he said, "It is finished."
Yeah.
Oh,
in other
that's
words, I
interesting.
accomplished my mission. But he's not going to say I accomplished my mission. He just said it's finished. You know. So.
All right, and so, you know, and he makes redemption possible. When he does this, he makes redemption possible for everyone. So to literally get out of like the fourth level. So once you beat that fourth level, okay, and you step over, are you basically on your way? I mean, you know, seriously, is it kind of like easy street from then on in,
Well,
because you don't have to come back anymore,
No, but
right?
there's always temptations and things. But hopefully by then you won't be tempted anymore. That's the
Okay.
thing. You won't be
So to
tempted
be-
anymore, and you can just go on. You won't be on this plane. You'll be other higher levels, other planes, and you'll be helping other people to do what they would do. You know, their missions and everything else. You'll be helping and teaching and doing everything. You know, and on your way back.
Is that what they mean too about being enlightened? Is it being enlightened when
yeah.
you conquer those four?
Oh,
Do you think that's being
Well,
enlightened? You know,
that's just one of the things by being enlightened. Being enlightened is, you know, you could say I was enlightened because I studied and I know all about this, but doesn't necessarily mean that I'm on my way back yet. You know, I'm still
Right.
struggling, okay?
Right.
So just enlightened is just a word of, you know, maybe you knowing more things than other people know because you've studied, not because you're better.
Right.
Not because you're wiser or whatever.
I guess I always thought, not to go off on this, but I guess I always thought enlightenment meant like you get it. Like you
Yes.
really, you fully get it.
You get it, right.
You really get
You
it.
get
You
it.
get what all this is.
There's various stages of enlightenment
Yeah,
too.
and
You
then
don't fully
those-
getting it is when you're back home.
Right, when you're fully, when
Yeah.
you're back home. So just to conclude, so we can go on to the other one, but through Jesus, really, God gave us this concrete guide to be in alignment with Him and return home. And He says, follow the 10 Commandments and Sermon on the Mount. And you've said this many times before on the show. And it's really very simple. It's like if we truly followed the 10 Commandments, the Golden Rule, which we talked about, doing to others, and the Sermon on the Mount, which I did not know the Sermon on the Mount, and I mean, I've heard the expression, so I did Google it before the show, and I mean, there's a wealth of many sermons that he did when he was on the Mount. So, really, by going through those 10 Commandments, following those, and then the Sermon on the Mount, then you're kind of on your way.
Yeah.
If you truly follow it. And then if you make a mistake, to say, I'm sorry, ask for forgiveness, really mean it.
And go.
And then be willing to forgive others.
And also be willing to forgive others and be willing to forgive yourself. I mean, at this time in my life, I've remembered my past and things I've done, and I think to myself, how could I have done that? I mean, they're not horrible things.
Right,
They're smaller things, but
It's
still, to
human
me,
stuff.
how could I have done that? And I go, that's not who I am anymore. I'm not that person anymore, you know. And I may cry for something. Maybe I remember one time when my son was really acting up, and I got so mad at him because I couldn't understand that I slapped him, I spanked him, and I feel so bad about that. And I thought to myself, I should have been more patient, you know. I should have, you know. And I feel so bad, and he's passed over, so I can't tell him. But I tell him, you know, I know he can hear me.
Right.
But I mean, that's just a little example. But there's so many things. If you look back on your past, it's almost like regrets.
Yeah.
The regrets can go either way. You could say regret that I didn't do this, so I could have had that. But there are things you've done to other people or to animals or to something that was against God's laws, and you know it. And you just say, I'm so sorry. And that's what I've said so many times. And you know in your heart and soul you're so sorry. Just like a heartfelt prayer, you know. When you pray for something, you just don't say the Lord's Prayer and blah, 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 like they do in church. I get down on my knees on the side of my bed and I say, I really need help. And you just talk from your heart. I really need help with this. That's a heartfelt prayer. And that's what they hear. And that's what gets answered. You got to remember that out there, folks.
Yes.
That's what gets answered.
Right.
Not rosaries and
You know.
repetitious prayer and stuff like that doesn't really mean anything. From your heart and soul.
What do you want? It always comes down to what do you want? What are you asking for? What help do you need? And asking for it. Yeah. So, all right, well, that's pretty much, I think.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Then I think we can do
I
the
think we
second
can do
video.
the second one.
Because it's very short.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that a little bit.
Hi, I'm Hans Wilhelm. One of the most asked questions is about astral traveling or astral projection, which is the ability to explore the multidimensional cosmos at will. We are all curious beings, and such an adventure, of course, is very tempting, particularly for the one who is relatively new on the spiritual path. So let's explore it together.
Again, we have to remember who we are. We are all spiritual beings who once lived in our pure spiritual home. Here we had many skills, and one of that was that we could transport ourselves anywhere where we wanted to be just by the power of thought or intention. It would happen instantaneously. But because of our birth into a physical body here on Earth, we can no longer use that skill, unless we are asleep, like here. Now, during our sleep, we are often leaving our body and venture into the spiritual spheres, mostly for further schooling and gathering spiritual knowledge, even if we don't remember that in the morning. Our soul leaves our body but stays connected via our silver cord. This projection is a natural event to assist our spiritual growth and development. Therefore, it is law-abiding, and we are totally protected during such a visit during our sleep. Things are very different when we willfully wish to project our soul out of our physical body. Yes, it is possible to initiate and force such a trip with some exercises or drugs. But if we do that, we have no protection because this is spiritually unlawful. We are on our own. Even our guardian spirits cannot help us on such a trip. Removing our soul willfully out of our physical body can cause great damage to our aura. It could allow foreign influences and entities to enter our aura and even our body. Let's not forget, if we project ourselves out of our physical body, that body is now vacant. There is nobody at home, and a vacant body is a great attraction to any negative earthbound soul or astral being to occupy. Therefore, it is a highly dangerous undertaking. You may want to watch my special video on spirit possessions. But that's not all. We will not be attracted to any high or evolved spiritual spheres. Our still unresolved negative vibration in our soul could attract us to very low vibrating spheres. Here we can encounter negative entities that are only too eager to use us for their own purposes, like drawing energies from us and controlling us. You can compare it to walking unarmed into a really bad neighborhood at 2 o'clock in the morning. Imagine all the shady characters waiting there. Why would anybody want to do that? Just for thrills?
Of course, everybody has to make their own choice whether or not they wish to do astral projection or astral traveling. There is no necessity to explore these realms. Any place, any situation, or any body who we are meant to encounter, we will meet when the time is right. Curiosity killed the cat, as the saying goes. Astral projection and astral traveling are a dangerous form of curiosity. Thank you for watching.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Good
For
subject.
such a little mini one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says a lot. I like this one. I thought it was interesting, and I liked the explanation that he gave. So astral projection, really, it happens naturally.
Naturally,
when
when you're sleeping.
And it's okay. Nobody has to worry or think
No,
about
because your angels
soul's
are with
leaving-
you.
Right, your soul's leaving your body. That doesn't mean anything. This is all sanctioned by the heavens, so it's really nothing strange going on. But he says, we travel to gather special knowledge. And I thought it was good. He said, even if we don't remember it, which is a relief. We don't
That's
have
true.
to remember it.
People say, I didn't dream. I didn't dream anything. Well, you did.
You did, but you just don't remember.
No.
And that's okay, because obviously we must absorb the knowledge in some way. That's the point of it. So we travel to gather special knowledge. So what kind of knowledge are we traveling to get? What's the information?
I don't know. It's different for every person,
Okay.
you know.
But I mean, is it
well,
how to live your life? Is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's all
what we're supposed to do,
spiritual,
answers to
guidance.
questions. Yeah. I remember a couple of them that I had particularly that stood out. One was that, no, I didn't plan to have an astral travel. It was my dream, my sleep, you know. I went to this place, and when I got there, I was just all of a sudden there. There was a, like in colleges where they have classes and the seats go down, you know, here like that. And everybody they were sitting in their seats, and there was a teacher down in the middle, and he was just finishing up, and people were getting up and getting ready to leave. So I went up to someone, and I said, how are you? And I went to touch him, and he said, don't touch me. I said, why? He said, because you're not ready yet. So I guess my vibration was not with his vibration. That was one. Another one that I did, I went somewhere, and I was standing with a teacher, and it looked like a wall, like a cave, only it wasn't a cave. The walls were gold, beautiful. And I felt such peace, and oh my God, it was so happy and peaceful. I said, oh, this is so nice. I said, can I stay? Can I stay? He said, no, it's not your time. So I said, he said, but you can come back and visit anytime you want. And then I went to see my son when he passed over, where he was.
Nice.
That's another one. And there are many things. I don't want to bore people going on about mine.
No, but you give
these
us
are
an
the things.
idea of what kind of things go on.
Yeah.
So really, we may go over we travel just to have a sense of peace. We could be visiting loved ones. We could be receiving information. We could be all kinds of things.
Right.
But always for our highest good, right? Always for
Sometimes
our
we
highest
have
good.
dreams where like there are fears, things that we fear, or something we saw on TV or in a movie, and those are called nightmares. But that comes from our own.
That's us, right?
Yeah.
So that's the difference between the dream.
We don't always astral travel. We don't always.
It's not every
night. We call
night.
it out-of-body experiences. We don't always have that. No.
No, it's not every night
No,
necessarily.
no, just
but
once.
we
Sometimes
can
when
trust when we need it, we're going to do it.
And you'll know that. I mean, anybody that has any amount of
right,
brains,
remembering,
can tell the difference between the two. You know, whether it's astral travel or it's just fears.
Right.
I often go places where there's lots of people that I've never seen before, and they're just talking. I meet new people, and sometimes I go someplace I'm teaching a class. That's crazy, but I remember every night what I had, what I dreamed, for some reason. So.
Okay, all right. So it's not a nightmare. So any other dream that we have could be potentially be astral traveling then.
If it's not a nightmare, or it's not just
nightmare.
Something you saw on TV, maybe you saw a movie with some movie star you really liked, and you had a dream that you were with him and he was kissing you. Well, that's, that's what you want.
Right.
That's just that kind of thing. It's just
just the dream. That's just the dream.
Yeah, it's just something that you desire, so you dreamt about it.
Okay.
So
that
kind of thing.
Difference.
Yeah.
All right. All right, so really what you're saying, it's out of body, so it's like almost like a near-death experience kind of thing?
Yeah.
So
when you go
like
somewhere.
near-death experience, when people kind of rise above and can look down below, but they're still attached. They go back into their bodies.
We're always attached by this silver cord, they call it a silver cord. If that cord breaks, we're
Okay, so...
dead.
Okay, so when we travel willfully, he calls it traveling willfully, we're not protected. So
No.
we decide, I'm just going to do this, whether it's drug-induced or just a certain practice.
Yeah, drug-induced, or we can go to read books about it, or we can even go to someone who help us to do it.
To help us to do it, right.
Not a good idea.
So not a good idea. So he clearly advises against this. And it was so interesting, he says, there's no point in going because you're not going to go to a higher sphere anyways.
No.
So do we go to the higher spheres when we're sleeping? Or do the higher spheres beings actually come to us? Like when we're sleeping and we astral travel, are we going to higher?
Yeah, we're going to to places where they are. Their angels will come and take us. I even saw my angel one time when he was taking me to see my son, and I felt that whoosh, and I heard that noise when I was going up into the air. That was a beautiful one. Yeah.
All right. So with the angels, you can go to the higher spheres, but if you're headed off on your own, it's not a good idea because
you shouldn't.
You're vacating your body.
Yeah,
is what
you
he
can.
said.
They've had people writing books and on anything and to make money and everything who would teach you how to do it yourself. Just like lucid dreaming, which is good. Lucid dreaming, we had someone on our show who told people about that. That's a good thing when you can control in your dreams. But astral travel, you can read books and practice it, but it's your will that's doing it. It's not God's will for you to go and take your angel and learn. When it's not your will, you can best be sure it's not the right thing.
And it's not the right
I mean, when
thing.
when it's your will, I'm
and
sorry.
not
Sorry, but I said when
yes.
it's not God's will, but it's your will,
Right.
you can be sure that it's not the right timing and the right thing.
Not the right timing.
Yeah.
All right. And what about like with shamans then? Because shamans go to the upper world, the lower world. I mean, I think
They do.
True shamans are very gifted and selected by the universe.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's my image of it. But is that the same thing as astrally traveling?
Shamans study a long time.
Right.
And, I'm sure there are some who do it with God's intent, and there are probably some that do it from their own will, And I can't say which, but if you're in their company and you hear what they say, and if you're able to discern if it's a good thing or a bad thing, your feelings and everything else, they go back and forth and they try to gather information, which is okay.
To help heal, to help others heal.
Right, and that's not for himself, that's for you.
It's for the individual that they go back.
To help, and that's okay. So you're not doing it. They're doing it.
They're doing it.
And they've studied and they've trained and studied and trained how to do it. Whether it's sanctioned by God or not, I don't know.
Right.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Better I not say anything because I'm not sure.
I think a lot has to do with intent, in terms of are you, are you trying to learn more? Like for instance, I'm not trying to justify this, but I've taken several workshops and all of that where they guide us and practice us to go to the different worlds and stuff like that.
You have done that?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
you
I
can
know
tell
I'm
us
not
about it.
I know I'm not a shaman. I know it's not work I want to do, but I was curious, and I wanted to experience it just because I was curious, but for no other reason. And I always protect myself before I do anything or take any kind of class. So
were you able to do it? Were you able to go?
Yeah, you are able to.
You did?
Yeah,
Why didn't you tell us your experience?
No. I mean, you experience, you go for yourself. You have a question, so you go, but you always bring like a totem animal, spirit guide animal with you so that they bring you back, And so you're very protected, and then you go, and you go to either the upper world or the lower world, which is not the underworld, that's a different place, but upper world or lower world, both are good places to get your information from the guides. So I think it's really just a way and an avenue of getting information from guides and from angels, which I include angels no matter what I do, and everything I do, I include angels to be with me. And so it was really a fascinating experience, but I would say it was with trained true shamans, and to try it with someone that knows what they're doing and can really guide you. But I wouldn't say it was for everybody, and I wouldn't say,
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about it.
Yeah, it was just I was just very curious, but it's not work I want to do.
Okay.
But they say, really, ideally, that the universe picks the shamans. We live in nowadays and in this world, and we think, oh, I'm going to be a shaman, but really, the universe picks
who's going to be a shaman.
Yeah, they pick.
So I guess if you're going somewhere, if you're traveling, and for a good reason, for helping someone or helping yourself, it's a good thing. But if you're traveling for a selfish reason, it's not, right?
Well, yeah. I
don't think a shaman would take you. A good shaman wouldn't take you if it was for a selfish reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's always for yourself. It's for yourself.
But for learning, for furthering yourself, right?
For healing yourself.
Yeah,
it's to heal. Yeah. So it's information that the shaman is.
You should tell the audience some night about your experiences on that.
All right.
I think they would like to hear
it at the end. We'll do it. It was.
I think
really
they would love to hear your experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. One of those shows that we have time at the end. Let's do it.
That sounds good.
Sounds good. All right. So that's pretty much it. I think we're at the end.
No, one thing I was saying, are we going to a higher sphere while sleeping, or do they come to us? Both.
Okay.
If we are able to do it, we can travel to another sphere. Otherwise, they'll come to us and take us, like the angel took me after my son passed on. He took me to see him. And that was just a whole thing unfolding. All right, but it's. I think it's time to give the contact information now. All right. For me, Healing Outside the Box, Rosemary LaChance, phone 203-627-7966. My email is whitebuffalo8@comcast.net. And my website is www.rosemarylachance.com. And this is very important. The website to get the books and the literature about everything we've talked about that Hans mentions and that I've been trying to tell you. www.gabrielle-publishing-house.com. Please make note of that. And for Carla?
Hi, and my website is www.carlaaugustin.com, and please watch my show, Spiritual Invitation. It is on YouTube under Carla Augustin, as well as on my website.
And when it comes back on us, we'll say good night.
Good night.
Good night. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Good
See
night.
you next time.
Look out through the window to the world you have made. Always know you are the vision